Hello everybody, it's Noobatrek, and in this video I want to go over how I made my latest game go big in less than a week. At the time of recording, it has about 9,000 downloads, so thank you guys for checking it out. I know there's some problems getting it going, and I apologize for that, but that's not what this is about. I'm sorry, that's not what this is about. This is about me. This is about how I made go big. If you're interested in having a bit of an insight into my process, my creative process making games, and how I work on games and stuff, how I think about projects, or if you've ever wanted to make a game and you kind of want to see what all goes into it, then check out this video because I'm going to be breaking it down. But first, I want to thank my patrons. It's because of their support that I could do this as a living, I could do this as my job, and I could take a week or so to pretty much work day and night on something. So I feel very privileged, and I couldn't do it without the support of my patrons. And if you head over to my Patreon, I actually have a project supporter tier where you can help things like Go Big be made. I'm working on a couple much larger game projects. And I plan to do more things like Go Big, so if you want to see those come to life, and if you just want to help me out, I would really appreciate the support on Patreon. A little bit goes a long way. So in this video, I'm kind of breaking it up into 4 sections. The first, I'll be going over the concept and ideation of the game, and I'll also be showing off some early screenshots of the game. In the second stage, I'll be going over the art and assets for the game. I'll be going into the art program where I actually drew everything, flicking through everything, and talking about that. The third section, it's the shortest section, but I'll be opening Audacity and going over the audio design for the game. And then in the fourth section, I'll be actually showing off the code and doing a bit of gameplay while talking over everything. So, to start, I wanted to make a game because it was Creativity Day. Now, Creativity Day was an event hosted by my good friend Sav on March 4th. This is the first in an annual series of Creativity Days, so I wanted to make it count. And what had happened is that I had worked on the Fatsona anniversary stuff so long that March 1st crept up on me, and Sav sent a message as the channel opened. I was like, if you need some time for finishing touch, final look over, haven't even started That's Okerdokers, there is still time. So I was like, okay, yes. So I took that to heart, and I kind of already knew I wanted to make a game. There was a couple other game ideas that I had in mind, but the important thing that I really had to think about was scope. The other, probably what I could do in a couple day games, had a lot of strange music ideas in mind that I would need to work with other people on. I would need to write lyrics, I would need to work with singers, and I didn't know if I could do that in a few days. So I reached out to Kid on the night of the 1st, and Kid is like my second-hand man when it comes to projects and stuff. So I was just like, I want to do it, and Kid was like, what the fuck? And I was like, yep. And then I had the idea for a casino game, and I was trying to think of a hook. So the reason I kind of landed on a casino game is because I have experience with like money-based games that's kind of simple to put together, and I could see that kind of fitting within the scope. So some earlier concepts that I had for other games kind of involved a haunted casino. Vampire Vegas, or like Vegas being in hell, has been an idea that's kind of been in my head for a while. So in this first picture, we kind of have this like detective character. This was going to be like an action platformer where you have to try to like break in or something. It's some detective kind of vibe. And then I drew this like dealer kind of design where it's like a ghost lady, a skeleton ghost lady. And you could see some other kind of related designs, this being a bit more simple. But like this ghastly casino kind of vibe has been kicking around for a while, so I thought that it would be kind of a good idea to take some of those design elements and bring them into this. And you know, the whole time I was thinking of a hook, and what I landed on was there being a new type of vampire that instead of drinking money, they drink, instead of drinking blood, they drink money. So I started experimenting with some designs for this. This was the first one that I did. It was a little more pulling from this one, this old design, with the shorter hair, and you can see that the dress kind of has vampire wings, like a vampire wing design, and you can even see that here with the little bat head. Some of this remained over. There's also the hat that was kind of pulled from here. But it was around this time that I started kind of looking more into references for the design as a whole, and what I kind of landed on was it being bird related, because a lot of these like old 20s fancy kind of casino dames, there's a lot of feathers involved actually. Like you could see this kind of like feather boa wrapped around the arms and kind of around the head, a lot of feathers. So I had the idea that it wasn't going to be a bat, it was going to be some kind of bird, like a cardinal. And I had the idea that the wings would be protruding from the lower back, and then they would kind of fold over the elbow to kind of mimic the feather boa. And instead of having like a headdress with feathers, the feathers are just growing out of the head because it's like a bird. And also, in these earlier designs, you can kind of see it more here. The hair is like a ethereal, like, ectoplasm thing. Kind of, you know, these characters were more ghost-related. But I think that kind of carried over into the bird design because it kind of looked like clouds. So I think that it came together here is really when I got the design for the girl. And then I finished it out pulling from some other inspirations. So I did go with a cardinal, and I went with a female cardinal because I really like the white, red, and like black color palette. And I think that female cardinals are very pretty birds. Usually the male cardinals get all the red, but I really like their wings. I like the gradient of white, red, and black. So I really pulled on that for her. It also makes her hair look more like clouds, which is what I really wanted, or like smoke. And I also took some inspiration from the Camerata from Transistor, which is one of the best games, by the way. It has a very similar kind of fancy Art Deco style, and this is kind of when I was really thinking about the style of the game as a whole. It kind of all originated from the character. I needed it to match the character, so I was kind of pulling from inspirations at this time, really focusing in on the character design, but this is what I ended up with. And then this was the night of the first, still going into the early morning of the second, and I was like, okay, if I need to make this work, I need to do a lot right now. So I got her done decently quick, and then I made 9 stages of Waking for her. So this is what I do with Vansona and all my other games. Once I get a basic design down, I will overpaint them with the different stages. So I concepted out 9 stages here, and I was like, okay, if it's only going to be one character, they should have more stages than the typical like 5 that I normally do. So yeah, I just was testing it out, seeing how a character like this with the wings, you know, bending over the shoulders or bending over the elbows, how that would affect their gain. And I was messing with hand positions and wing positions, and I was able to kind of figure this out more when I actually got to making her render. But this was very important. So after I did all of this, I went to bed, and then I started day 2 of development. But before I get into that, I kind of wanted to talk about more inspirations, because this really influenced the rest of the design of the game. So at this point I knew I wanted it to be casino, I knew I wanted it to be like Art Deco, old-fashioned-y theme, and I really have an appreciation for electro swing. It isn't my favorite genre. I think that it kind of, you know, wears its age a bit, kind of like dubstep. But I mean, I've listened to so much Prov Stellar, and I was just listening to that the whole time when I was doing the concept art for Carliva. And I actually found this really good Caravan Palace song called Reverse, which was just on loop the whole time I was making the game. And I think these really got me into the mindset of it, and I definitely hard referenced a lot of Art Deco designs and pulled that in while I was making the design for the backgrounds, the games, the interface. This right here is very striking to me. So I used these panels and I put a cardinal in the center, and that's the transition between every screen. But this was just really striking to me because it was the red in the center, where I was like, okay, that's actually so perfect, because the cardinal theme that I eventually landed on, you know, cardinals are red. So this kind of opened my eyes to like a color palette of black, gold, red, white, and I think from there things just kind of came naturally, and they looked like really good. So a lot of design is having a good idea and a good direction before you actually sit down with stuff. So I feel like over the course of making the concept art for Carliva, I really landed on a design and a good direction to go forward with. So this was the second day of development. This was whenever I woke up on March 2nd, and I slapped together this. I made the UI in the editor of ClickTeam Fusion, and then I set up some games, and importantly, I wanted to have Carliva on the screen, even though I knew at this point she wouldn't be gaining on this screen, it would be at the end. I wanted to have her just so the player knows kind of what they're looking at, and it's a good piece of eye candy. And so this is kind of like the hub, and you click onto the different things, and I was just figuring it out in the editor, and now I'm going to show off some early screenshots of the different games. So this is Bird Capsule is what it was originally called. I renamed it Lucky Hatch, I think on the last day. I asked people in the public server to provide me their birds, and this is why. This is the reason why, because I had the concept for a kind of gacha style game where you could get all these different birds that people made, and I thought that it was important to have something like this because Creativity Day was like a celebration, and I didn't want to just, you know, make a game that felt totally detached from any of that. So it's got these, and also another thing that this kind of added was a bit of like Photoshop funniness to the game. You can see it on the coin here. This is just a cardinal head. You know, I didn't paint this cardinal. Like there's a lot of just MS Paint, Photoshop kind of goofiness sprinkled in, and I think that this really opened the door for it to be more lighthearted. And I'll show this off more when I'm showing off the assets, but there's a lot of like photo bashing and kit bashing that I think was allowed by having something more whimsical and lighthearted like the Bird Capsule. And this is an early screenshot of the Blackjack. This is the first thing I coded. I didn't know the rules for Blackjack before I started. Apparently I got one of the rules wrong, so I'll see about fixing that. But this is the first like game assets that I made, was the playing cards, because I knew that I'd have to do that. This is early screenshot of Early Burt, which is inspired by Voltorb Flip. It wasn't called Early Burt yet. I knew that it would be digging for worms, but I didn't know what the bad tile would be, so to speak. So originally it was just green batract tiles, and you could exit them out, and blue tiles means that you found them, and you can see the numbers here. This was very tricky to code because I've never made anything like this, but I think it turned out really well. It's one of my favorite games. This was me setting up the wheel before I had the panels all figured out. How this works is that these are all like at a 90-degree angle, and they are pitched around the center point and at different angles using algebra. So, and then their angle is added based on the rotation of this. So instead of having like one image with all the wheel segments, I could make a bunch of different panels and then assemble it using the code. So that took a little bit to figure out, but this was me setting up the wheel before I made the assets. And then this was a scrap game. This is like horse racing. If you ever seen horse racing test on Twitter, this is what that was going to be. It was going to be bird racing. You were going to get to place bets on birds, and then they would go around. And I I got decently far into this, but when it came to making the assets for this, I decided to cut it. For one reason, it was a time constraint thing, and then the other thing is that it would have been the most variable in time, and it would also be impossible to have like even reasonable player odds. So I thought that it would have just felt like a waste of time, and that it wouldn't be. There would be low incentive to interact with it, aside from the fact that it would probably be the funniest game. But yeah, so this game was cut, and well, that kind of wraps up the first section of the video, and now I'm going to be going on to the art. So here we have Carliva's render. This is the finished render. This took quite a long time to make. This was the bulk of the development, believe it or not. Turning a rough sketch like this into a very detailed, high-fidelity render takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, especially her hair. When you have something that is meant to be rough, your mind really fills in the gaps here. So you could tell that it's supposed to be smoky and stuff here, but to actually get the specific lines and shapes down and make it looking, oh my god, make it looking exactly how you want, definitely took a while, and a lot of care was put into making the feathers look feathery, and making the wings look wingy, and making the back of the wings not disrupt her silhouette too much. And yeah, so you can see Carliva here, and I want to show this off first, because this is another thing. To have her blink and emote in the game, I can't have the face layer on the same layer as the rest of her body. So this is what she truly looks like. And then I blast the face object onto her so that I could edit it. You know, I can make her sad, I can make her happy, you know, blinking. So this is above everything else. It's an important thing. And also for her, there's a bit of a special case because her wings are above everything else as well. This is what she looks like without the wing layer on. I wanted to make it like believably fold over the arms. Like I mentioned, it was kind of more figured out when I was doing the render, what that might look like folding wings that come out of your back over your elbows. So you can see it kind of goes up from here and then goes down. From here, you could assume that it goes up and then goes down. But I had the wings on a separate layer here so that I could make sure that they really truly look above and I won't just be flubbing it the whole time. And also so that I could adjust them later when I needed to. I only needed to adjust it once for the final layer, which is here. But yeah, took a while to assemble her. You can see that I had isolated the shading and glow into only one respective layer for themselves. I wasn't sure if I would have to do different glow and multiply layers for each stage. Turns out I didn't. I just overpainted her, and that's what I'll be going on to next. So, to do each waking stage, what I did was I took this here, this kind of base yellow screen, and I would put it above her current stage. And then what I would do is I would grab the concept art that I got. So in this case, I was gonna do stage 2. So let's just grab stage 2. We'll copy this so that we can keep that. And then we'll just put her over here, blow her up a bit, and then I would kind of just eyeball it and fill in the size. And I would make the lines first, so I would outline where I kind of wanted to fill her in. In this case, it was kind of a minor gain, so I just padded her out a bit here, here. And then I would fill it in with color, and then shade it. So obviously I can't show you the color and then shade. But yeah, I would fill it in with color, and then I would turn this off, and then I would kind of paint it to match the rest of her render. So all the different values, all the different, you know, shapes, and, you know, the little rim light here, the specks on her dress, the little texture that it has. I would just fill that in, and then I would repeat the process. I would drag this, the blank layer, over this, make a new make a new set of lines, and then fill that in. And then, you know, that's her third layer. And then, you know, I just kind of repeated the process and, you know, quickly just flipped through it. So this is stage 4, then stage 5. Oh, stage 6 actually has something unique. So I wanted to change the hand position on this stage. So what I did was I did this and this first. Which, you know, it works, but, like, the hand is kind of just awkwardly, like, you know, it's kind of like she's digging in her butt. So I didn't want to draw that. So, I took her hand, and I kind of edited it to make it look like she's, you know, grabbing her tummy. And then I added a bit of shadow here. A little bit to the belly button as well, it looks like. And, you know, that's how I was able to kind of do that there. But I didn't have this hand posture for the next part, which is the final part, so I made sure to just keep them on separate layers so that I could isolate this when I needed it. But yeah, still kind of same general idea, you know, it's drawing out the lines of where I want her to grow, and then just filling that in with color, and then expanding it. And it looks pretty seamless. It looks pretty seamless when it's all done. But it does take a little grace to not look super sloppy. So it does take a bit of time. And now, final part, I needed to move the wings. Because, to show you here, if I didn't, then her arm is just kind of non-existent. And it's also, maybe more importantly, clipping over like half of her entire body. So I wanted her final stage to feel quite large compared to the rest, and for more importantly, her to be wider than her wings. So I had to reposition the wings, and I kind of fandangled the arm again to make it look, you know, pretty good. If I had more time, I probably would have done something different. You could see in this concept art, she's kind of putting her hand back to herself and going like, "Oh my." Probably would have done something like that if I had more time, but like I mentioned, all of these renders were done over the course of a single day, and I think it was a 15-hour workday for me, so apologies if this is maybe a little rough. I think it turned out pretty good, in all honesty. I think she's very dashing. And in the game especially, I think that because of the duration of the game, it isn't like any flaws with the renders is very hard to notice. And I don't know. I think it came out pretty good. And just gradually going step by step doing all these renders, you could really get a large gradient for gains. So I feel like a lot is represented here, and I'm pretty happy with it. So while we're on the file, we'll talk about the smokes. So the night before I actually did her render, I had a really crazy idea as I was going to sleep, and that was to put little tiny birds on the end of her smoke stick that it randomly swaps between. So yeah, I went ahead and did that. I also put like bats and stuff, blue jays, cardinal being the default one, and then I figured it would be funny to have cardinal stack themselves on each other. And this is kind of like the Photoshoppy kind of joke, lightheartedness of the game coming through a bit in her design, because it's just like she could just have a little duck on her stick, and it's never brought up. It's never addressed, and I kind of like that. So yeah, this is Carliva's render. I'll be showing off the game asset renders now. So like I mentioned, this was actually the first game asset that I made. When I went to code Blackjack, I didn't want to do a placeholder asset and then replace it with this, because that would have been extremely tedious to do that for 52 images. It was also more important to figure out the dataset then instead of figuring out what the cards might look like. So we got I think it's a generic kind of online playing card template online, and then I added some flourishes to the ace. I made the diamonds blue because I wanted them to be bird themed. I wanted the hearts to be cardinals, the diamonds to be blue jays, kind of keeping it still feeling vampire-y, and like kind of dark. I went with bats and crows for the spades and the clubs. And this is again pulling in kind of the Photoshop-y elements. These are just literally pictures I found off the internet, and then I put filters over. So you can kind of see it here. I just kind of made them desaturated. I blew up the contrast on them a lot. And then I added some dithering to kind of make them shine. Added some colored dithering to delineate the different classes. So the jacks have blue dots, the queens have gold dots, and the kings have red dots. And then I colored them with an overlay, and I gave them a bit of an outline, just so they stick out even more during gameplay. And I think it really came together quite well. I think it's really funny because Blackjack is a kind of serious boomer bust game. Like, you could be dealt a jack of blue jays eating a fucking peanut and you could lose all your money, which I think is very fun and very lighthearted. I also like the jack of bats, and he's wearing a hat, so and you can't forget the king of all the bats, who has the biggest ears of them all. You know, I think it's charming, because this was the first thing that I did. This kind of also set the tone, I feel. So there was never any asset that took too long, because I was like, you know, it's meant to be kind of silly, it's meant to be kind of lighthearted. I didn't want people to get too pissed off about it, which, you know, some people are, which is kind of weird to me, but yeah. Alright, moving right along, we have this file, this gargantuan file. It said it's 166 layers, so this is where most of the assets were made. It was my plan to go over them one by one, but I don't know if I'll be able to do that. So this is the YouTube thumbnail promo that I made. I usually make a different file for promos and keep that very organized, but I guess I didn't here, so let me just turn all this off and we could get to the game asset stuff. Oh my goodness, there's a lot. There's a lot. Oh my goodness, there's a lot. Okay. Okay, hi Carly, but there's more. There's more. Okay, there's more. Yeah, so this was after I was done with all the assets. I was like, okay, I need some promo images. And we're not done. Alright, there we go. That took a second, but we got the full transparent layer. Now, when you're making assets, I don't know if this is similar with any game software, but it certainly is for Click Fusion. It's certainly true for Click Fusion. You want to have a transparent background. You don't want to rely on the transparency tools within Click Team because they're not that great. It kind of sets it off way better if you just have a transparent background. So you would draw an object, and then you would export it, the transparent background, crop it down, and then use it. So that is kind of the basics of making an asset. It's quite simple. It's pretty much just draw something and then use it. Crop it down, use it. You got to make sure that there's space in between. You got to make sure that it doesn't have a background baked into it. And yeah, that's this kind of modus operandi. So, like I mentioned, this is what I use to kind of create the transition effect. Cardinal. And this was me making sure that they lined up very nicely, because I already knew how I wanted the transition to look while I was making the asset. These are the birds that I was going to use for the bird racing, but it didn't come to pass. So, yeah. I wanted to make the dice assets early. I think this is what I did after Blackjack. So I was looking at all these different dice faces to get a clue on how to animate them rolling, and these are just very good references for rolling dice, or not red dice. How they kind of bleed through, the dark comes through, and the different light patterns show. So I came up with this, and then I also referenced these to create that. I put these panels onto here. You can kind of see there's a bit of a gap at some places where the panels don't really fit together, or a bit of an edge, but you don't see that. I mean, they only roll for like a second. I also figured this would be a good effect. It's kind of like a shadow and ambient occlusion coming from the dice. So this is a spotlight that is put under each dice. I found this very nice carpet texture that I made to loop. I made it much larger into loop. And I also made it kind of like you're standing and looking. So this is like from top down, you're looking down. And then this is just standing, looking out. And I knew that I would want to do that for the different games I wanted to have a backdrop. So I kind of added a bit of a spotlight effect to it, and I desaturated it a bit so that it doesn't take too much focus. Add this vignette around it with this patterned brush that I have. I set it to transparent, and I made the vignette, and then I used the pattern to kind of carve a bit of it into the vignette. And then I had this. This is just straight up a casino in Vegas, which I thought had a really cool roof. And then I put the floor over it, as well as a blur, and I kind of desaturated that a bit. And I had this spotlight that bounces around. I don't know if I ended up using this one specifically, but there's a slight spotlight to just add a bit of movement to the background. So I knew that for games where you would be standing up looking out, or on the main screen when you're with Carliva, it would use this background. And then for games where you would conceivably be looking down at the game, I would use the carpet background. Now for the games have a table. Every game kind of has a table or some object to look at. So for Blackjack, I got this Blackjack table. I said this is the first one I worked on, but it was actually the last one that I finished, because the first go around it didn't look very good. So you can see I kind of blacked out the areas that I knew I would kind of want, and then I added this kind of carpety texture baked into it. Then I added a bit of luminosity onto the black parts again, just to kind of create more of a visual interest there. And you can see they're very, very far separated in the layers, and that's because I did end up finishing it way later. Yeah, I outlined it all with gold, which I thought looked really good. And then I added these little spotlights. This was the original Blackjack table. So I would put this image onto the background right here. And the yellow spotlights were baked into the image of the Blackjack table, so that everything just kind of stood out and nice again. So this is the first rendition of the Blackjack table, but during playing I didn't really like it that much, so I did adjust it a bit. Let me see if I can find that. So yeah, I did adjust it a bit. This is the final image originally. And then I just overpainted, made it a lot cleaner, highlighted sections which I thought were important. So the dealer's number goes here, your number goes here. This kind of shows that you are dealt more cards instead of just being a weird, scratchy blob. And then I also put the card faces on here so that it's a bit more readable. And yeah, that's how I did the Blackjack table. Now for the roulette wheel, I had to consider how I was going to code it, because I wasn't sure if I wanted it to just be an animation that has like a random variability, or if I wanted it to be physical objects that an actual ball interacts with, and I ended up landing on that because it seemed to be the easiest, but it proved to be a little challenging to code. So what I did is I got a roulette wheel. I got this, and I kind of colored the green parts blue. You can see that there's a lot of artifacting, because this is just straight up an image. And then I isolated these colors, and split them up into these three. And I exported these three as the separate objects. And what the logic of roulette in this, in the program is, I'll go over it a bit later. But whatever the ball lands on, whatever object it lands on, that's which one that wins. So I knew that I had to separate them like that, and then I would kind of just add set dressing around it so that it all looks connected. So this is the background of the roulette wheel, and there's this center part, which I think I ended up putting on every object, which proved to be kind of a mistake. But there's just kind of Art Deco spinny thing that spins alongside the roulette tiles so that it all kind of looks in motion. And then there's this cap that I made, which is just this but shrunken down and then shrunk down again. So I think what I did is, let me see if I could recreate it. I think I went like, I think I lassoed this, and that, and that, and that, and that, and that, and that. There we go. So we got this kind of, we got this shape off of the asset that I already made. Blew it up a bit. Duplicated it. Shrunk it down a bit. And then we duplicated it. Made it all black. Blurred it a little bit. Offset it a little bit. Duplicated that. Shrunk it down a bit. Put it over this bottom thing. Now it looks like there's two knobs. It looks like there's space. And, I mean, it's pretty much identical, right? So, there's a lot of craftiness like that I did with the assets here. And which is one of the ways that I was able to make this game simple. Because I kind of was resourceful. So after I finished the roulette wheel, I had it in the game, but I didn't have a background, and I didn't have indicators for what option is what. I had this placeholder off to the side so that I would know when I would test and see if the game worked at all. So what I ended up doing was right here, which again is kind of the Photoshop-y indie feel that I liked. I had a cardinal, a crow, and a blue jay for the different colors. And this was thought of from the start. That's why the tiles aren't green. That's why they're blue. It's because I always knew I wanted to put in a little blue jay. And then I added this background effect to kind of hold the different icons. And then we can place the wheel above that. And I made sure that the tokens kind of where you place your bets kind of roughly fit. And then everything is just composed nicely. And this screen has a blue spotlight effect instead of the yellow that Blackjack had. Now for the third game, we have Snake Eyes, which is an original game that I came up with. I'm sure there are similar games, but I thought that a dice game would be fun, and having pairs with funny names would be cool. So I came up with the rules for Snake Eyes. I put it in. You can see it put in here. I put the dice into the game, but when I needed a background, I needed background. So I got the red and black spotlight. I kind of made this dice tray. It's like the cloth texture, a little bit of red around it, and then I put this accent around it of gold, which I think looks pretty nice, and then also a little bit of red just to tie in the red spotlight more. Now this is an interesting thing. So this is an invisible object in gameplay, but this is actually what the dice rebound off of. To make sure I got the sizing right, I made it in this, and then I adjusted it in the game. So I think in the actual game it's more like that. But basically, when the dice bounce into this green thing, you know, they'll ricochet off, so they don't just go anywhere on the screen, and it lines up with the visual very nicely. But yeah, you gotta consider, you gotta have the level of thinking of how will this function in gameplay, how does it function during the runtime. So sometimes you have to make assets that are completely invisible or very obfuscated. To make things really come together. So the dice tray didn't take that long. And just kind of like the blackjack table, I drew all the different dice icons just to kind of tie it in more thematically. And yeah, now we move on to our last table game, which is Early Bird. I kind of had a vision at this point to make the things that you don't grab, the things that you don't want to grab, be moles. And in the extended Matrak lore index, there is a mole named Bert. So I made the tiles, and then I made them green and put a worm over it, and I made them red and put a bird over it, and then when you right-click and mark a tile, I made them kind of pink-gray and put a bird with a question mark over it. I also made this for when you select a tile, it was going to expand out, but I never ended up putting that in. Because I felt like it wasn't necessary. So this is the board that I made for it. Basically, it was just fitting it around what I already got, because the positions were kind of hard-coded in at this point. If I moved it around or scaled it up, it would look really bad. So you can see that it lines up, kind of the numbers go into this rectangle here, and the bird indicator, or the fact, the way I communicate that this number is how many birds are in the row or column is by having this little thing here. And then I made sure to have a little bit of spillage over here so that you can see that it is in a column or a row, what that's necessarily referencing. And then you can see I made the tiles approximately to the same size, but I scaled them down a bit in the editor to just make them 100% precise. And yeah, that's how I made Early Bird. You can see the isolated bird graphic here. And yeah. So this was the last floor style game where I used the floor background. And now we can move on to the standing stuff. So this is the just, I guess, regular background for $20. And first game that I wanted to figure out was the wheel. So it was a lot of trial and error. This was like my test thing that I did. I wanted to get the scale right because obviously like these diamonds and the size of this are different, and I also didn't get one that was perfectly like the same angle like that. So there was a lot of fandangling that I did. I tested quite a bit of different wheel sizes, wheel slice sizes, and I landed on this shape. And what I did for this was, I knew it had to be modular. I had the rewards all figured out already, so I had these on different layers. And what I did was I put this outline around the slice when it was a money reward, or I would put this outline around it when it was a token reward, or this when it was the money grand prize, or this when it was the token grand prize. And what I would do was I would do that, I would put the thing on, I would put the money symbol, I merged it with the jackpot just because I was going quick, but I would put the money symbol on it, and then I would export that, and then I would hide the layer, do it here, export that, hide the layer, do it here, export that, go down the line pretty much, do, you know, turn this on, 50k, export that. So in total it was 20 separate files, and you know, there's different ways to do this, but just because I had this isolated single slice here and I wanted everything to line up and be precise, sometimes you just gotta go the long way, and it ended up working pretty good. It ended up looking pretty good. So I got the slices in, but then I had to make the wheel. So here are all the slices in the game. That'll look pretty good. And how it works is that there's this little black line that jumps out, and whatever it touches is what you win. So I knew that I had to make an actual wheel, have some pretty background stuff go on, and then make a fancy pointer for this so that it doesn't look like it's just a single black line that jumps out. So I kind of added vignette here. I was experimenting with some stuff. I'm not actually sure if any of this made it in, but this is like a cascade of light that comes out and really puts your focus on the wheel. That might be in. It's kind of hard to tell. But yeah, you could also see that I put the transparent pattern here, the same pattern brush there. And then I assembled the wheel. So this is actually the Lucky Hatch kind of machine. So I used this as a basis to kind of make the stand for the wheel, because I knew it would be covered up. And then I made some rings. These are the rings that I made, and then I made a little backdrop for it. You can see it's super messy, you know, there's like a black line here, but I knew that it would be mostly obscured. So I didn't have to worry about making it perfect. And then I ended up making a little cardinal pointer. It was pretty rough, but this initially started as just the transition kind of like leaf flipped upside down, but I kind of took the end of that, mirrored it, cleaned it up a bit, and then just kind of freeballed this cardinal, which, I mean, you could kind of tell. He's a little derpy looking, but yeah, all put together, I don't think it looks that bad. And yeah. Oh yeah, and I was also feeling like it was pretty blank. You know, it was mostly just focused on the center here. So I put these little side things to kind of put your focus towards the wheel. So this is kind of what it looks like in the game, and I think it looks pretty good. So this is what the screen looked like for Lucky Hatch before I added any assets. It would be a token thing that you click and then a bird would spawn. So it was the most naked game by a long shot. So I knew that I had to kind of bring it alive a bit. So I did kind of show this off with the wheel because I did reuse it. But this is meant to be kind of like a little gacha capsule thing where you have the you have this token intake here. You have a little bit of a spinner to send the coin up, and then the egg would come out of here. And this is all, you know, just meant to be kind of looking Art Deco-y with the black and gold and everything. And then because it's birds, I had this cloud kind of imagery, and I made it very bubbly and very purpley, just so that it stands out a bit more. It kind of obfuscates the background a bit more, makes it stand out, makes it appear kind of ethereal and weird and important, which I think came together really well. And I also knew that the background would kind of have to be bare bones on the bottom, because that's where the birds are going to be jumping around. So the focus was really put up top, so that the birds jump around a lot, and you know the player kind of knows at least a little what's going on. That is, you know, you put your token in, you spin the wheel, you get a little capsule thing. So that's really what was important to me, like the moving parts of it all, versus just the really, you know, nice looking background. I feel like that would kind of take away from the fact that there's maybe 100 birds at any given point bouncing around on the bottom. And now we move on to the UI design. So you can kind of see it in a lot of the original screenshots. Let me just get those up. But I had designed a bit of a UI in the engine to be very rough. So, you know, you have these very blown out pixels that have just been scaled up way too much. These are actually the same asset, just layered on each other with some semi-transparency, and then I had the minus and the plus and the different 100%s, which I actually kept these. But yeah, this was to add to your bet, subtract from your bet. It was very bare bones. And I knew that I kind of wanted a border, but I wasn't sure if it should be like red or not. So I literally just expanded this and made it red and made it very light. And so I kind of took that and I made the border. Firstly, I made the border, and I decided to extend it over here as well, just so that it would kind of feel like a proper border instead of just weirdly only being the left side. And then I made these, which are kind of like the main cards that you look at, the main like bars that you look at. So this is like what holds your tokens and your money, and this is what holds your bets and the different options there. And then I knew that I wanted the plus and minus to be a little more accentuated, so I put a blank asset here that I put another asset over. And you can see that here. So I also knew that I wanted an indicator when you place your bet that is your bet. And then I also made a bit of a fancy plus and minus, which come alive whenever you can make a bet, which makes it a little more intuitive where you're supposed to click, where you're supposed to interact with. And then when obviously you're on a screen without bets, you just see this. So it's a little bit of a more clear indicator, a little bit more clear of a tell to the player when they're supposed to bet. I also made the buttons for each of the games. And you may have noticed each game had their own kind of different color about them, and I wanted to bring that over to this. So, Blackjack, I kind of just did the basic gold because it was kind of like the black game, and I thought that having it be a darker screen with some accents of gold would kind of accentuate that. For roulette, I got the blue because the main thing is the blue. Snake Eyes, it's red dice, so red for that. Early Bird, kind of digging through the ground. You gotta, you gotta think like grass and stuff. When you click on a worm, it's green. So Early Bird's green. Lucky Hatch is the purple sky, and then the big spin is just gold. It has that kind of gold radial pattern coming out from the wheel. Half the options you land on are gold. So I wanted to bring a bit of lights over when you hover over these options, so you can see they're more desaturated. They're a bit darker. Aside from the lights, they're just generally a bit darker, and then they really pop more when you hover over them. Then I made the back button. So having these made really helped a lot because what I could do is I could duplicate them, and then I could just select parts of them and then squish them into each other. So how I made the back button was something like that, and then I just flipped it upside down. I put the back text over it, and then I adjusted the colors a bit so that it looked less crappy. I also made this background visual. This was lifted from the logo that I made before I made this visual. And I kind of use this to tie the buttons together, just fill a little bit of dead space, just an additional little flourish while I was just kind of figuring out the design language of everything. This is when I also made the borders for the evaluation. I didn't make them fill the whole screen, which I'm not sure why I did that. But basically, how these work in the game is that they both go, the top one goes to the right, the bottom one goes to the left, and there's maybe 3 of them that just repeat and reset their position whenever they get too far, so that it looks like one continuous really long image, which I could have done, but yeah, I didn't. It just made it a bit harder. I'm not sure what this was for. And then just one last thing, I had these little effects in mind. This was going to be put around your mouse whenever you would hover anything that you could click on. And then the coins and money would explode out of the screen whenever you got coins or money. I decided not to add these just because of time, and I already felt like by the point I would add them, there was already enough going on visually that it wasn't really necessary. So that's all the games and backgrounds and basic UI stuff. Now I'm going to be moving on to the cutscenes. So I've mentioned it a couple times, but there is a bit of a Photoshop charm to this game. So what I did was I had this screen. I made this background frame to kind of look like an old-timey movie. Made this kind of Art Deco-y background frame to frame the image. And then I had a bunch of these little dot pattern effects that I was messing around with. I basically just got certain images. I had to Photoshop that hat onto it, and then I would make it grayscale, up the contrast, and then bring it through hard light so that it would have to pass over this tip, so that it doesn't just look like an image. There's a bit of distortion there. There's a bit of it's got the characteristic of looking really old, looking really crummy, without actually looking really old and crummy. So yeah, we got the female cardinal through here. I believe this is the same image that I used in the reference PowerPoint, which is funny. But yeah, we got the cardinal, and you can see that if I turn off the clipping layer here. But if I turn off the clipping layer here, it extends way out beyond the frame. So I really recommend using object clipping, which is why I have this square here, this rectangle here, so that everything fits within the frame, and it actually looks like a projected thing. But yeah, so I basically I just took a detective, I embossed him a little bit with white, and then I put him over the Fronte Cardinalis background, and then This version is now this version is just this, but it's a little blurrier in the background because I wanted the focus to be on Carliva, and so I put Carliva and I kind of fubbed her legs a bit because she doesn't actually have legs. I embossed her a bit. I edited her head and her hand a bit so that it looks like a unique pose, and then it was kind of hard to tell that it was her. I mean, you could tell, but you can't really see her. So I also had this isolated layer that I put over it, where some of the dithering still comes through, but you could definitely see her eye and her mouth a bit more, and the shape of her body. So I think that was definitely a good call to make. And it looks good while running. So that's how I did the cutscenes. Super basic. Didn't take very long. This alongside some GIFs of film grain and some effects in the actual code make it look really good. I was considering doing something like this for each of the endings, but I kind of ran out of time. And I think that these add a lot of charm. This was actually the first thing that I put out about Go Big, was the intro cinematic, and yeah, I think that it's really cool. I think that it really set the tone for the rest of the game, and more specifically the audio design of the game, which is what we'll be getting into right after I show you the logo, because I should really show you the makings of the logo. So, this is the logo. I think it's mostly comprised of this. It's mostly comprised of the fan, because I really like the fan, and it's the cardinal on it. These are just straight up Carliva's wings. These are straight up Carliva's wings that I took. And then I had the text. I used this Art Deco font generator for everything. I kind of skewed it in such a way where it looked pretty good, and then I made it look like gold. I got this little Art Deco diamond just so that it comes together. A bit of red to make it pop a bit more. But I think it's the fan and the text and the wings that make the logo come together. For most things, I don't actually use the wings because they're really big and they cut off here. But yeah, you can see the cardinal here. I was kind of looking at how to do wings splayed out so that I can make Carliva's wings look like that. You can see that I kind of had to like duplicate it and darken it here so that they look a little splayed out. And then this is just the I think this is the roulette wheel. This is part of the roulette wheel. This is one of the roulette wheel assets that I took, and I wanted it to kind of hug or cup the bottom of the logo, and I put this kind of complicated Art Deco pattern to just accentuate it and make it feel really glamorous. And this was the kind of like bead asset that I mentioned that I brought over from the logo, just to kind of, fill space, add visual interest. It looks way worse without it. It looks way more naked without it. So yeah, this is how I did the logo. Not much to it. It's not the most complicated thing in the world. And I was very, you could say, resourceful when it comes to making the stuff. Oh yeah, this is just the paddle, but red and reversed, so that it fills the same amount of space and kind of gives the Go a bit more backing. And then I just put sparkles over it so that it looks shiny. Yeah, that's how I did the logo. So now I'm gonna get into the audio design. So this is the Audacity file that I did everything in. Well, there is a little bit that I did in other files which won't be in here, but basically, like I mentioned, is very inspired by electro swing, and I kind of wanted to bring in that kind of old radio sound to it. So, well, the first thing that I designed was Carliva's speech. This is not. I didn't have time to work with a voice actress, so I just asked Kitchuck to be the voice of Carliva. And it took a bit of toying around, and I couldn't use every clip that he sent, but I got kind of sounding like a girl. And what I did was there's this very important radio static sound effect that I use in almost all of the samples for Go Big, and it gives it that really old quality. So this is it, just isolated. Like it's got a bit of ambient noise, like some signal coming through. Just think it makes it sound everything. It makes everything sound really old and really authentic and really real. So you could hear. Uh, I'll just solo this.
Hola. Oh my. What a shame.
Like you could definitely tell
Maravilloso.
that it is it is just voice filters. But when you have the when you have the static as well, it sounds a bit more authentic.
Hola. Oh my. What a shame. Maravilloso.
You know. So what I did to this, because it also didn't sound this compressed at the start,
Hola.
was I would basically use a high pass filter. I would use a high pass filter set to 300. I would use a low pass filter set to 3000. I would hit it with a compressor, and I would hit it with some distortion. The distortion was kind of jazz. This was all kind of jazzy. The distortion, I used overdrive. I used um, soft clipping sometimes. Expand and compress I used a lot. The distortion was kind of just jazzy. If it sounded too clear, if it sounded too fresh or new, I would just distort it in any way I could. And then probably most importantly, I would use the filter curve EQ. And when I wanted it to sound super fucking old, I would use telephone. And when I needed just a little bit, but still needed it to be legible, I would use the AM radio preset on this. So basically, a combination of doing all that with the high pass, low pass filter, the compression, the distortion, and the filter curve, as well as for Kit Shock, adjusting the pitch and the formant to make him sound like a girl, um, as well as just then adding the static is kind of how I made most of the audio for
Hola.
this game.
Oh my. What a shame.
Yep. So I could show off some of the other files that I did. So this is from Soft, who, if you'll remember, was the host of Creativity Day. I asked Soft to provide some voice clips for some ambient effects in the game, and I mean, just really knocked it out of the park. So much energy. So for these, I wanted it to be coming through like the announcer, like the eye in the sky at the casino was saying this for everybody to hear. So I put a little bit of reverb, a little less distortion on this, and a bit of an echo. Uh, Soft also sent over a bunch of woos, a bunch of excitement, um, and I put in an applause sound effect. Um, and I think that I've moved the radio static off of this, but this is roughly what the $1 million sound effect sounds like in the game. Even without the static, you could hear that it is still very crunchy, very old sounding, very authentic, and that's mostly in part due to the filters on it. Here, I actually had brought in something to show off what the filters do. This is a very good sound effect. So this is Nim from my Fatsona project,
My name is Nim. My name is Nim. My name is Nim.
and we're just gonna run it through kind of what I did for the rest of the audio design. So I would hit it with the high pass, low pass, hit it with a bit of a compressor, hit it with a bit of distortion, and then hit it with, let's just do AM radio. Oh, there we go. Now let's give it a hear.
My name is Nim. My name is Nim. My name is Nim.
Definitely sounds a lot worse. But worse in a good way. Worse like authentic. And then if we enable the radio static and we move Nim to the top here, move track to top. Me track to top. Oh yeah, baby. Fucking move it right there.
My name is Nim. My name is Nim. My name is Nim.
We could adjust the audio a bit so that it blends in a bit more into the mix of the radio.
My name is Nim. My name is Nim. My name is Nim.
We could give it a bit more filter curve for feeling like telephone might be necessary if we really don't want to hear Nim.
My name is Nim. My name is Nim. My name is Nim.
And that's how I would kind of do the audio design for this. I do want to show off the music. Oh, no. I want to show off my stuff, actually. So now I want to show off the radio show kind of narration at the beginning and end of it. I won't go through every single ending, but I will go through this one. So what I did is I recorded this, and for the 5 different endings, all of them have the music and the radio static in their own kind of layer, and then each of my different ending takes are in here, and I kind of chop them up to make the pacing really good. And I applied the filters for each of them independently, and then just align them so that they all kind of play in line with the static in the music. So I'll let this one play, and you could kind of hear how that all sounds.
And just like that, she disappears into the night. In a puff of smoke, she flutters away on little tiny candle wings. Our detective salts back to their car, thousands of dollars lighter, and forever left with the question, why didn't I go big? Later that night, our detective would get into a head-on collision with a commercial aircraft, dying immediately. Talk about bad luck.
So yeah, you can see that it kind of ends.
About bad luck.
It kind of ends in line with the song, so it kind of picks up when the horns come in.
And just like that, she disappears into the night. In a puff of smoke,
Like right here?
she flutters away.
So it like eases you in, and then it eases you out. It's kind of the pacing I wanted to go. Now the last ending is quite a bit longer, so I had different pieces for that. But you can see most of the endings kind of fit within this limit. And I kind of built the other audio effects around that. Now this is the main music file that plays for Fuente Cardinales. I had a layer that was all the static on it, but it seems like I don't have that anymore. So this is comprised of 3 different songs that I licensed off of Audio Jungle, and then a free song off of YouTube, and some samples at the end. So this one is also part of the song, and I think this one is also part of the song.
Corn or apple?
Yep. So this is just the audio file without the static, but pretty much what I would do is I would just, if I wanted to recreate it, I would just grab the static and I would extend it out over the whole duration of this. So I wanted it to be just one really long music track just so that it was nice and simple to start and stop instead of it alternating between 4 different tracks and having to worry about all that. I like it when it's just one really long track. I did a similar thing for Hack Weight when I composed that. It just works really well in the editor. So
Do you want to feel alive?
we got this first song. It's definitely the most electro swingy. It's kind of got that mixing in. It's a little funky. Um, but I chose to lead with this song and license this song first because um, it's kind of got a Spanish flair to it, which is what I went with Carliva and with Fuente Cardenales. You could hear it with the there's kind of like a I don't know. It's hard to explain. There's kind of like a Spanish guitar flair to it. Like right there, especially. Even like the strings, you know. It's very like flapper-esque, and I feel like that sets the tone for Fuente Cardinales very well. And I also like how it starts with.
Do you want to feel alive?
I feel like that catches your attention when you go from the intro into the main menu when this starts to play. It has this very high mixed vocal
Do
sample,
you want to feel alive?
so I feel like that really sticks out. And then this is just I think it's just a nice song. It's a little more chill, very funky. But it's got this nice little chill section. You know, I wanted to go through different tones during gameplay. So I wanted to have a bit more funky sections, a bit more chill sections, and a bit more loud sections. So this next song is definitely the loudest and most proud. And what I actually did was I kind of added cardinal noises as like a pseudo chorus to this, so you could hear it here. These are just so these are played every other bar for certain sections of the song, like the first kind of the first couple eighths of the song. I have this and it kind of syncs up with the music. So you got. Again, this was just to kind of tie like the more lighthearted aspects of it. Make it feel more cardinally like there's actually birds chirping. Carleva has audio effects where she literally like chirps and stuff. So I wanted to include that in the main song mix as well. It also ends out with a chirp. It sounds really quiet without the static, but usually there's a bit of static in between. And then it kicks into this song, which has a static effect of its own. This is just a royalty-free song off of YouTube, and it was quite long and repetitive, so I actually cut it up a bit. So it's mostly, it's definitely the most truncated song. It feels like it ends really before it begins, but I think that's okay. I think it's a nice little capstone because it feels definitely the most. It's very gaudy. This part of the song is very gaudy. It's like. I think I needed it needed a dash of that, but then I kind of reel it back in with this really funny sample at the end.
If you live in Cardinal's range and would like to try attracting some to your yard, try putting out sunflower seeds, cracked corn, or apples. Remember to use a broad, sturdy surface, since cardinals normally hop around on the ground to find their food.
I just thought that was so funny because the whole game is kind of about attracting a cardinal, and then it talks about how they hop around on the ground to find their food, and it's like, I don't know. I think that's adorable. I like the mental image of Carliva hopping around on the ground to find her food, just like eating pennies off the ground. Oh, Carliva, you've done it again. You've done it again, Carliva. So one of the great things about licensing music off of Audio Jungle is that they often come with a shit ton of files. And what I was able to do here was I was able to kind of make an evaluation song based off of uh, based off of this puppy right here. This part of the main song. So there's a bunch of instruments in the mix. Bunch of instruments in the mix. But oh, I guess static's here. But I was also given the stems, so I could make. I don't think this is part of it, so that I could make the evaluation song, and I wanted it to kind of just slow down, be kind of more detective, jazzy, slow. Well, not as bombastic, definitely not. So this is kind of what I got. And this is just using the bass and the drums and orienting it around this the kind of clav guitar that was part of the other song, or part of the main mix in the later parts of it. But it really comes to the spotlight here. And the organ really comes through on this. It's kind of lost in the main mix as well. So it sounds extremely distinct. On first listen, you might not even notice that it's from the other song. So I kind of made the timing of the evaluation around this track, which I think worked out pretty well, actually, because it kind of was the perfect amount of time to read all the text that I prepared and you know, have the whole gain sequence. And only in the final ending does it kind of go on a bit longer than it's meant to, which is why actually you can see the line here. I had to add a bit more static for the fifth ending because otherwise it would loop. It would just loop. So I had to add a extended amount of static for it. And yeah. I think short of showing off literally all of the sound effects, that's kind of the general gist of the audio design for this game. A lot of tasteful compression and you know, honing in on a vibe and going for it and using ambient effects and sampling kind of intelligently so that you could get the desired result.
Do you want to feel alive?
And now we're moving on to the actual game. I'm going to extremely briefly go over the code for this game. This is not going to be comprehensive because there's 734 lines of code. It's also very zoomed out on YouTube, I imagine, so it's not going to be a good idea for me to go over everything. But I'll try to explain it in simple terms. So I use Clicking Fusion. It's very good for 2D games, especially if you're an artist and you could just make assets yourself. Everything is oriented around assets. You see this is an object. And you kind of attach code onto it. So you can see the ending manager here has a bunch of different things, and all of these values interact with the ending. And if you could kind of figure out the logic for your objects, you kind of just attach numbers to that, and it all kind of makes a bit more sense in the code editor because you interface with the object images directly. So the first thing that I did, I'm just going to go over the main gameplay screen first, and then I'll get on to the other screens later, because this is definitely the brunt of everything. So, actually, first I think it's important to mention, I used a system that I came up with for other game projects, but this is the first time I've actually been able to actualize it and use it, is using layers as logic. So, in Clicking Fusion, there's layers, where you could host your different objects, and they're layered on top of each other. They work how layers expect. But how this game works is that for every layer, every single object has a qualifier. So this is generic 1, for example, because it's on layer 1. And every other layer has this generic qualifier. And what this can do is that I could basically go into the code, and I could look for objects with the generic tag, like here, and I could say that when it is time to bring it out, I will make everything that is this generic object reappear. And when it is not time to bring it out, I can make it invisible. So instead of cramming every single object onto one layer and then having that logic for it, I could manage each screen in their own layer, I could isolate it in the editor, I could lock the other layers, and then it works seamlessly alongside gameplay. So it's a very clever solution, and I would really recommend this if you use Click-In Fusion. I've not seen guides about this, but the layer logic is extremely seamless, and there's a lot of applications for this. It's kind of like using multiple frames in one. It's like having multiple screens in one that could interlace with each other, and you could edit them a lot more easily. Like, imagine all of this crap being on this screen. Like, if I just turn everything on, you can see how unreadable it becomes. Imagine working with this. Imagine having to edit the worm sprite when you have to move everything out of the way. You know what I mean? So, yeah. The game works by isolating all of these objects into their respective layer and then calling upon that when you click the button. So if you click on the blackjack button, it'll set the current game to 1 and then call everything from layer 1. If you go back, it'll just make everything invisible and bring back the stuff from layer 8 that you need to see, and so on and so forth. So that's what most of this code is. It's a lot of easing in visuals from layer 8 to layer whatever you pick. So you can see here, Carliva, the Glampire, has a value that controls her position, so she kind of eases in and fades in a little bit. It's always going to subtract from her alterable value A, and her transparency value is alterable value A if it's over 0. So if she is invisible, she's going to be tried to make non-invisible pretty much, and when a game is active she's forced to be invisible, and then you can kind of just release that and let her become non-invisible and slide in a little bit, you know, when that's not happening. So there's a lot of easing in visuals like that, and then a lot of can bet logic. Oh, right here, yeah. So these are all the bet objects. This is the minus, this is the plus, and then these are the things that set the counters to your different bets. So if you click on 25%, it sets it to your amount of money times 0.25, for example. So this is all the bet stuff, and then, you know, there's some screens where you can't bet, like the main screen and the wheel and Lucky Hatch. So I gotta make sure that these buttons don't work when they're not supposed to. They kind of gray out when they're not supposed to be interacted with. This is more just transition stuff. So, you know, Carliva still sliding in. The doors group is all of the buttons here. So each of these are buttons, and all of them are grouped together under doors. And this basically dictates when you're supposed to click on them and when they're not supposed to be interacted with. So internally, this is always right here. So if you're playing, I don't know, if you're playing roulette, you don't want to click on blackjack when you want to bet on black, right? So when Carliva is, you know, all set to normal, that kind of tells the game that you are on layer 8, you're back to home, you're not playing any game. When she's set back to normal, that's kind of the indicator that everything's back to normal. So that allows you to interact with the doors, and there's visuals associated with that. They kind of have similar semi-transparency things to Carliva. They react to her value changing. And you can see a lot of, if it is, you know, greater or equal to 0, if it is lower or equal to 0, then you'll get the interaction here. So, you know, you get the mouse pointer over it when it's lower or equal to 0, and it creates a little yellow effect around the doors, which means that you could click on it. And then also, you know, clicking on the actual doors, they only work when Carliva is lower or equal to 0, which again is just when everything's all ready, and this makes her go away and starts to add to her value. So you could think about it like when it's below 0, everything is all good. When you click on one of the doors, it starts to add 7 to her A, and no matter what, it's going to be subtracting 3. So it's going to keep adding 7, which means that she's gone. She's gone for good. Because 3 is lower than 7. So these two values are kind of just always fighting, and you relinquish control whenever you press on respective buttons, and which allows her to come in and out, and which dictates when you can click on the buttons and when not. And when you do click on the buttons, they'll take you to the different games. So when you have your mouse pointer over, this is blackjack, this is roulette, this is whatever, it'll change the tip text to the different paragraphs. So you get as close to 21 as possible, spin a roulette wheel, roll a pair of dice, collect a bird, get 5 worms. Whenever you're hovering over that, it displays this paragraph. And then when you click on it, it actually changes the game to that paragraph. So the information is stored, which one you're hovering over, in the paragraph, and then that is actually called on when you click on the thing. So instead of having 6 different events for if you click on this button, if you click on this button, if you click on this button, then take it to that game, that game, that game, it is responding to the tip text, which already needed logic when you have your mouse pointer over it. So and other thing is that you don't need this to be respective to her, because this is already respective to her. You don't need the mouse pointer to limit when... you don't need Carliva to be visible to limit when this is displayed, because it's invisible if you can't see it, and you can't click on the button unless Carliva is active. So this doesn't cause any problems. You don't need to bloat out the code. If you have logic later down the line that kind of covers your ass, you don't need to have spotless code the first time around. You don't really have to overthink a lot. So these are part of the transition visuals. Basically, it makes a bunch of these little diamond objects that move around. You can see they set their position to different areas as the transition visual adds up, and I think the transition visual just continuously counts up until it's done. Yeah, you can see add 1 to transition visual. As it counts up, it kind of moves, and these are the reference points for it. So yeah, if it's above 1, then it'll constantly add 1, and clicking on the button sets it to 1. So these move around, and then the fans are created from that. And then the fans have their own logic for coming in. They move a little bit. They have similar kind of fade-in effect, where their semi-transparency reacts to their alterable value A, and their alterable value A is always added 3 to. So once they get to a high enough alterable value, then they destroy themselves. And this is also used as timer logic for the transition, coming out of transitions. You can see this when we enter our first game. So if the alterable value of A is greater than 240, which means that there is at least some fans that have lasted for, let's just say it's about a second or so, then we'll start to see the objects reappear. So if the current game is 1, if you select the blackjack game, then it sets the current game to 1, and it starts the transition visual. And then if the transition visual is wrapping up, which you can see here, then you will reappear all of the group sprites. And if it's not current game 1 and it's going away again, the transition visual is about to end, then you make them all invisible. So it works both ways. It kind of eases it in, and it makes it not jarring. If it was just you click on back and it goes invisible, then you would be able to see that before the transition visual finishes. You'd be able to see the sprites as soon as you click on the button. So just having a bit of transition logic and timing kind of built into these objects does help a lot. So this is the blackjack logic. This is dealing the cards. This is when all the cards are dealt. I want to see if I can pull out the data set. Yeah, so this blue object here that says high It's called card manage too, but I think it's the main thing that does it. So what this does is that it sets. Oh shit. Okay, so this is a data set, and this is card manage 1. How far apart are card manage 1 and card manage 2? They may have been separated by time and space. They may have been critically divorced. Oh my god, they were. Oh no. So card manage is all the way over here, and then I inserted all the fucking objects when I was making the game, and that left card manage 2 over here. That's horrible. So card manage, basically, it's gonna be hard to explain all this. Basically, what happens is that this has no alterable values to speak of, but it logically has 52 that represent each of the cards. So each of these, it goes from 1 to 52, or A to, like, AZ, I think. And what Card Manage 2 is that it responds to this data set. So if the alterable value is equal to 0, that means that you have the card in deck. And then if it's equal to 1, that means that card is dealt, and that means that you cannot reference that card anymore. So by default, all the alterable values are set to 0, so that I don't have to manually do it in here. So it refers to an index data set. When it tries to call a card, it'll pick a index at random from 1 to 52. If that's equal to 0, which by default they are, then it'll set it to 1, and then it'll blast that information to the card manager. And it'll tell you what the current card is, and based on that, it'll set it to one of these cards, which, there's some other logic, but basically, if it's your turn, and the current card is equal to something, if it gets a card from here, then it'll set it to your card, it'll spawn it here, it'll add to your value, and then it'll set that card, and then if it needs to be the dealer's turn again, it'll change the turn, set this to his card, give it to him, so on and so forth, and it kind of goes down the line. And then there's also the value. So there's different values. It's not just set to it. So I grouped each card by 4s, or by their class, I guess. So each God, I'm blanking. Each suit of cards is kind of, you know, split up so that their values are all even, so that I could do like a number range. So if it's card 1 to 4, then I know that that's worth 2. If it's 5 to 8, then I know it's worth 3. So on and so forth. And, you know, I got all the cards here. I did apparently mess up the ace logic a bit. I thought that it only was a 1 or 11 when it's dealt, but apparently that changes. So you might be able to see why that might be hard to remedy the way that I got it, because it gets the card, it sets it to the current card. If the current card is within a certain value, let's just say like 1 to 4, then it'll set the value transfer to 2. And then this responds to the value transfer. If it's your turn, then it'll set this, it'll add the value transfer to your counter, and if it's the dealer's turn, then it'll add the value transfer to this counter. And this way I don't need to have 52 different events based on what current card is. I could just reference the value transfer and have maybe 8 or 10 events. So that's kind of it. So this is the data set, and then this responds to the data set. And there's kind of a cool thing that happens, because once the game is done, you have all of these values mixed up. You know, an indeterminate amount of these values are going to be set to 1, and it's hard to keep track of that unless I have another object to keep track of that and reset it. Or what I could do is I could go in, and when the game is over, I could destroy the objects. I could just destroy them, clear them out. And then after they're destroyed, I just create a new one. And this resets their values to default. It sets them all back to 0. And that way, I don't have to go in and set all of them back to 0 manually. I could just destroy them. And this is one of the benefits of having like the true object-based coding is that you could just work with them, get rid of them when you don't need them, and bring them back. And attach values in this. So these are all the endings. Whenever an ending is triggered, it brings in this object, which is called you win lose, which is on the top layer here. It's buried behind all the effects, so I don't know if I could access it. Let's see if I could bring it up. But basically, this has all of the endings in it. And this is just font assets that I kind of slapped together. So it's the you win, you lose, draw, which I don't know can happen. I did code it, but it doesn't seem to work. And then all the different snake eyes that you can roll. So whenever a game ends, it creates this. It creates the logic for this, and then based on what game you're playing and what ending you get, it changes the frame. So instead of having like however many objects this would take and having like the same effects on all of them, it's just one. It's an animation that has no speed, so that you could just change the frame to whatever you want whenever you need it. These are all the different rewards that you could get from the wheel. This is the evaluation that pops up at the end. Yeah, so this is just using one object and getting a shit ton of mileage from it. And I think that's basically blackjack. You get dealt the cards. The data set corresponds to it. It creates the cards, and the cards are a moving object. The active cards are a moving object. And it changes the animation to B, which is set to the current card at some point. And they are moving objects, so that they have a little bit of a slide in whenever that happens. And then the dealer's cards have logic to not show to you whenever this happens. I named the roulette group I'll get to you because this was very hard to do, and I wanted to hide it for a little bit. I didn't want to deal with it. So it's kind of hard to explain, but basically what happens is that there's built-in physics, and it sets the angle to the ball. Ooh, okay, it sets the angle to the vector between the ball and the center of the wheel. Whenever it is the roulette game, that's where the gravity is set to. And this way I can make the ball simply a physics ball, and it'll always fall towards the center of the roulette wheel. Instead of having some sort of strange animation where it circles the drain and then I put it in a random spot. This was the way that I found it best. I have the physics to do it, and I just set the gravity to the center so that it looks like a ball that's spinning down the thing. Now, the problem with using the physics in Click Fusion is that it is kind of shit for dealing with spinning objects and precise collisions. And I think that having the gravity change to a vector also doesn't help, so the collisions are shit. And the ball would constantly clip into the center of the wheel. So what I actually did was I created a pretty crafty solution, I think. So I got the ball. This is the ball. This is the ball. This is the hitbox that it bounces off of. So this is the vector. Oh my god, wait, why is this visible? Okay. So this is the let me just lock this real quick. This is the vector between the ball and the center of the wheel. Oh yeah, and also these are all the roulette things, as you can see. So this is the ball, and this is the vector between them. So what I did is this has the physics, but it is always attached to the ball. So in Click Team, there's a bit of a trick to get any vector that you want, and that is by using the physics objects, because they have 360 degrees of rotation, while the normal ball objects only have 32. And what I did was that this ball always wants to go towards the center, and because it's always positioned at the ball, it creates the vector between them. and I could reference that vector as the gravity scale. So because this is also a physics ball and it's also affected by gravity, it will always fall towards the center because this is always pointing at the center, it's always trying to go towards the center, and the gravity is set to that vector. So this is always falling inward, but it also has initial speed so that it goes around and it kind of bounces off, because when it hits the center it bounces off. But like I said, the collision sucks. When it slowed down enough, it would just clip into it and it would suck. And it would also not land cleanly on any of these. So what I came up with was my Spinger Ring. And the Spinger Ring has its center very, very offset. Its center is where the center of the wheel is, and it's the ball asset. So you could think of it kind of being like this. It's kind of like this long, and it spins around, kind of like that. So it's at the center here, and it spins around, and it has two behaviors. It is always facing the ball. So it's always positioned at the center, facing the ball. You can kind of think of it as the opposite of this. And when the ball stops, it sets its angle to where it was looking before the ball stops, and then it just starts rotating around the roulette wheel. So it's always looking at this, and then when the ball stops, it is rotating around the roulette wheel, like the ball actually stopped and is rotating alongside the roulette wheel. And when it stops, the actual ball becomes invisible, and this becomes visible. And when it is looking at the real ball, it is invisible. So that is kind of the properties of roulette. That's how I made it work. If it looks a little stuttery when it lands, that's why, because it's transitioning between two objects. And yeah, this was a real head scratcher to figure out. But yeah, that's what all of them do. I also added some funny logic to when it collides with this and it's overlapping blue, that it adds 2 to A, and when it gets to a certain value with A, when it gets over 50, then it stops. When it's on a specific tile and it's not on other tiles, then it'll stop and it'll do all the things with the Spinger Ring. See, it sets it to the angle that it was before the ball went away and then gets destroyed. So the blue is a lot more likely to happen in this than real roulette, which is part of the way that you can kind of game the system and cheese it a bit. So that was roulette. Kind of took a while to figure that one out. So this is game 3. This is Snake Eyes. This is less complicated, just a couple dice, and then a lot of comparing dice values to get the different endings that you could get. Not a lot here. I will highlight that there is a really funny bug that I worked out in a really funny way. So basically, when the dice stop, it checks them in order. So if dice 1 is lower than 0, then it'll set the value, and then dice 2 or so the dice get set in order. It's dice 1 and then dice 2. You can kind of see that here. So there was actually an issue where if they stopped on the same frame, your game would not work anymore. You would not be able to proceed. So what I did is that I added a failsafe that whenever there is 2 dice on the screen, and Snake Eyes has been played for longer than 420, whatever this is, it's just a little timing thing. It just starts to go whenever the game is on. And if that value exceeds 420 and there's 2 dice, that means that you've rolled 2 dice and you're just stuck there. So what this happens is that it sets both dice to Snake Eyes. It sets dice 1 and dice 2 to Snake Eyes, sets the visual to Snake Eyes. So this was just a bug that I fixed in a funny way. And yeah, I like that. It's just a lot of comparing the different numbers, looking at the different win screens and doling out payments was the real challenge here. And then we get onto the bird game. So basically, you just click it. There's a small delay for the knob to turn. It responds to its alterable value A, and it turns 90 degrees. So when it does that, it'll create the egg, and it'll make a little sound. And then when the egg is stopped, it creates all the effects. It creates the bird. It creates the bird get. It determines the rarity. It sets the bird to be a random bird. And then, yeah, bird get 2 actually determines the rarity, so it's 1 to 100 that determines the rarity. And then these are just some scaling effects for the bird, and the bird get stuff. And these are all the different rarity things. So this determines if it's common rarity, if it's 0 or below 50, if it's 50 to 75, if it's 75 to 94, or 94 and above. So this is common, rare, epic, legendary, and that sets your flock strength. And what flock strength does is it adds a baseline to your bet. I'm not sure if I have it in the code here because that was kind of added later, but basically the bird clones are just taking the image of the bird that you get. The bird destroys itself and makes a little bird clone, and the bird clone is what bounces around and is really tiny and sticks around. Because I really wanted them to stick around if you leave the frame, so they needed to be way smaller. And yeah, we got bird clone, and they have a little effect around them to determine to show what rarity they are. So each rarity has a color, and they have a little glow effect inside of them. And the bird clone sets its color to whatever the bird is, and this is determined by rarity. So you can kind of see what rarity birds you've gotten while they bounce around. So game number 5. This is early bird. There's a bug in this one that I don't want to fix because it's kind of funny. But pretty much what happens is that when it's started, it sets this value called amount of evil in the world to 17. Now I want to say, originally it was gonna be ugly worms. It wasn't gonna be bird. It wasn't gonna be bird. Bird is not evil. Let this be known. Bird is not evil. Bird is an agathic ecological creature. Bird is not evil. But the value is called amount of evil in the world, 17. And if it's greater than that, then you have this little object called the thing manager, and it will bounce around between all the different tiles, and it will determine if they are evil or if they are a worm. And pretty much, whenever it is in a position, it'll add to one of the counters, which is called the thing counters, the thing thangers. Sorry, it's called the thing thangers, and it sets it to whatever value it is, and the values respond to its position, so that you get an accurate count on where all the birds are being placed while you play the game. And then if the amount of evil in the world is lower or equal to 0, then it resets its position to off the board, because it only interacts with stuff when it is overlapping a piece of the board. And then you get to play the game once that's done, because that happens very quickly. If you click on it, it'll reveal itself to you, and if you get 5 worms, I called the value desperation. I don't know why I called it desperation, but that's when you click on a worm. That's good. You want to have desperation in your life. So the game ends and everything is revealed if you click on a bird. So you have to use logic and deduction and luck to figure out where the worms are. And you have to get 5 worms to get 5 desperation. And when your desperation is good, then you get a good ending. And that's game 5 pretty much. It's game 5 pretty much. And you could like right click on stuff to mark them, which creates a little effect over your thing, and then when everything wraps up, everything gets destroyed, all the values get reset. Yeah, whatever. And then for the final game, we got the wheel. The gear group engine are all of the little tiles, and you can see they're each objects, and basically head over to there. Basically, you can see that each of them have an alterable value, like based on their index, pretty much. So we got 5, 6, 7. And what we do here, 6, 7. What we could do here is we could multiply that value by 18 and add it to the center of the wheel to get the angle. And this will set the angle to the where they should be slotted in the wheel, and then also update based on the center spin. And we could just do that all cleanly in one event because we set this up with a bunch of different objects, and with them all being in the same group, we could just reference them and reference their individual alterable value as one, and kind of get the same logic there. And then when you click on it, you get a random spin, so 80 to 100 spin strength, and that kind of affects the rotation of the wheel. There's an ambient rotation. And then, you know, it does kick up when you click on the thing. And then this is the little black thing that jets out to stop the wheel, or when the wheel stops. And this tells you what reward you get. I did kind of have to brute force code this because I couldn't think of a better way. So it's just whichever one it's overlapping with, when it's pretty much over, it sets the game end to that. And then the windscreen responds to whatever game end it is, and whatever frame this is, because the frame of the victory animation is what reward you get. And then this is the race game that I started to set up, but then didn't finish. But yeah, it was pretty much working aside from the visuals, and then I stopped it before I got to the visuals. Now. We got a little bit more to go through, but the games were the brunt of it. So we got Carliva's speaking animation. This is nabbed from Fatsona. This is my speaking animation technology. So, you get your mouth. You get her little mouth that I made in the editor because I figured that it would look good. And basically, every tenth of a second, it changes from 0 to 2. So 0, 1, or 2. And if it is 0, it's invisible. If it is 1, it is a slightly closed mouth. And then if it is 2, it is a fully closed mouth. And whenever she speaks, whenever she has text to speak, she gets an alterable value E that is equal to 15 plus the length of the paragraph times 15. So, what happens here is that it's always subtracting from E and F. It's either E or F. I think that it's E for the mouth, and then F is for the picture. But it's always subtracting from E and F. So whenever you get a new paragraph, it's like it starts a timer. It gets this huge number based on the length of the paragraph. And I kind of had to feel it out with multiplying it by 15 and adding 15 as a baseline to get the length kind of feeling right. And then basically, while it is above 0, every tenth of a second you'll get your random mouth animation, and also a random blink animation as well. Because I baked... Oh, the E's for the blink, maybe? No, I don't know. I don't know. But I baked the blink animation into her face, which was a very bad idea. If I was doing more than one character, this would have been the stupidest thing I could have done. But if we look at Carliva's thing, she has 28 stages because I had her expressions and blink baked into the actual render instead of just making a separate object for her face, which is normally how I do it. That's how I do it for Hackweight, Fatsona, but just because it was one character, it felt easier to do it this way, and it kind of wasn't, but whatever. Yeah, so E determines the mouth because she doesn't always talk, but there's always blinking going on, right? She's always going to be blinking, whether you're talking or not. So that kind of futzes with this. We got different blink timing. We got 2 different blink timers going off so that they could coincide, because you kind of want to blink randomly. You don't want it to be too rhythmic. And this basically sets it to 7 frames. She's going to be blinking. And this is just logic based on expression and based on blinking. And then all of this is mouth stuff. You know, when she's talking, you get mouth stuff. I kind of explained it, but F is also how long the dialogue box shows. So she yaps as long as the dialogue box is around, because it's the same kind of algebra. You know, it goes off the same multiplication thing. So if F is equal to 0, then you know, it's invisible, and she's not talking anymore because E is also equal to 0. And it kind of lines up that way. So that's how we get the length. These are just the clips that she says based on how much money you have when you go back to the home. So if you have a shit ton of money, then she'll say something good. If you're up, there's a value that compares your money to when you leave to when you come back. So if you're up, she'll be like, good job, I love you. If you're down, she'll be like, oh fuck. If you lose all your money, she'll be like, oh man, oh man, oh man. And then if you have a lot of money, she'll be like, oh my god, holy fuck. And then we also have the voice clips, courtesy of KitShock, based on whatever she's saying. Got that logic here. And then we also made it so that, we got when you click on the button to set your game, it shuts her up and it makes the dialogue go away because it would be weird for it to persist. And then we got a bunch of sound effect stuff. This is when I was putting in sound effects. So this is like roulette sound effects, the wheel sound effects, whatever. This is the ambient section. So every minute and a half, if you have more than 20 tokens, it'll play either common ambience or rare ambience. It's a value that gets set randomly to like 1 in 15, and if it's between these ranges, it'll play these different audios, and these just add a bit of flair to the mix of the game. This is easy mode stuff that I coded. No, this is ending stuff, but easy mode's part of that because it adds the evaluation. So this starts the evaluation. When you're out of tokens, it starts the evaluation. It destroys a bunch of shit that you're not supposed to interact with anymore. It changes the animation of this. It changes the UI. It brings in Carliva really slowly. So there's a fade out value that starts. It gets set to 200. Oh, wait. Sorry. So when an evaluation starts, it'll constantly add to these values and subtract from like cooldown. And then when fade out is above a certain value, she will come in. So she comes in really slowly during evaluation. There's a lot of tweaking to just get the visuals right. Changing a lot of stuff, making the background a bit darker, destroying a lot of the effects, making a lot of stuff invisible so that you can't interact with it, making your counters invisible, and then so for easy mode, it sets your final value to how much money you had times the evaluation bonus that is in easy mode, and then if it's not easy mode, then you get just your final money set as your final money, and then pretty much it compares your final money to a given value, and this is what determines what ending you get and how big she grows. So if you have 0 money, she won't grow, and she'll go to this paragraph here. Let's say I did, you're starving, your total was nothing, you're coming with 5,000, I should be going. And then you can see here all the different spots. And you can also notice here that your total was money, blank, exclamation mark. That was very hard to fine tune. So pretty much what happens is that there is a value, there's a value here that gets positioned there that is equal to your final value. And this is also what gets reduced from while she's eating your money. It's the same counter, but it just gets really large and then it gets really small as she eats your money. Or no, I think it goes from small to large as she eats your money, which doesn't make much sense, but I think it looks good. So yeah, based on whatever ending you get, it compares the final money to a value. And then it changes the paragraph to be the corresponding value, and then you have the different growth things. So it sets values. It sets B to certain values at certain times, which determine her growth in some of the working logic of her growth. And you can see each ending has different events that add or that set her alterable value to kind of stagger it, like show a bit of a progression as it's going. And, you got your test counter reducing, compared against the final money. So the final money doesn't change, but the test counter reduces. So this kind of just says that if the test counter is lower or equal to final money times 0.75, then we know that it's about 25% of the way through the evaluation animation where she's supposed to change, and that's when I kind of change her, and then when it's over, it gets to the final size of that ending. And you can kind of just see all of that here, which sets her size to different things, and then, the last one is the longest. And then this is just some general stuff, there's a lot of like transitioning in and out, making stuff look really nice takes a lot of effort, a lot of values that come around, that fade in and out, a lot of fandangling, making sure that going between the screens is seamless is really hard. And this is the win streak stuff. This isn't super interesting. Basically, whenever you win in a game, you get a tally, and then based on whatever tally you get a certain amount of money at the end, which is a way to make the game a bit easier, a bit more forgiving. Some easy mode stuff. This is an UG button. If you fill up 2 win streaks with nothing but losses 2 times in a row, you get to say UG. And then if you this is all stuff that was added after the game was put out. But it's in the present version on itch. This is if it isn't evaluation time, then you could hold R and to add 1 to this value, and then if that value is over 200, then it restarts the frame. So if you get really unlucky, you can just play that. I will be playing a bit of this, and this is all in one recording, so I think I'll be able to show that this game isn't as unfair as some people may be led to believe, but if I end up doing really bad, then we will all know that Dumpster is right, and I'm a stupid idiot for putting RNG in a casino game. And then I'll have to unlist it from itch. So yeah, that's basically this. This has been a very long-winded explanation. And obviously there's more that goes into it, but there's like a little chicken hat that I didn't even get to talk about, but yeah, so let me just quickly go over the other stuff and then we'll get into that game. So this is just a string that goes through different paragraphs. So this is the intro. This is the object that goes between these 4. Oh, let me shrink this down a bit. So this is the object that goes between the 4 frames that I showed earlier. And this is the border that I showed. I set it to monochrome so that it kind of matches everything more. And then I have this filter effect over everything. And then I also have the forewarning with everything that nothing will start until this is gone, pretty much. And then basically the function of this is that there is this counter, which is set to timer rater of, I think it's 35? Of 3. So timer rater, as long as the retract dog is equal to 1, which the retract dog gets equal to 1, if you click confirm, it will add 1 to timer rater. And timer rater is basically what compares the time to everything so that it lines up with the audio clip, because when alterable value equals 1, then it'll play the intro audio that I prepared. And then I basically just had to sync it up with everything, make the string become invisible and change paragraphs, and change the different visuals for the little cutscene. And then there's also a cool effect that I added, is that every 12th of a second, the position of the cinematic frame will be set to 540, which is where its Y position is, just generally, plus a random range between -2 and -1 and 2. And what this does is it gives it a little film jitter, and then I could reference this this value transformation with other things. So the frame has the same thing because it's always positioned here, so it has a similar jitter. It's semi-transparency. Oh my god, why can't it? Its semi-transparency is equal to 15 plus its position minus 540, so that just gets whether it's -1 or 2 times 15. So it has a range of 0 to 30 semi-transparency this way. And we have all that so that it kind of flickers in and out. It kind of looks like an old film effect on this. And then what I did for the outro is that I just did the same shit. I got this GIF here, and then I just reversed it because it's an old-timey countdown. And then I put it for the different stages that you get. You get this little Elfindica now come in from the top, and then when this is done, it shows that. This corresponds to the final stage you got. And then you can even see the object still here, but I didn't use it. And because it did take a while to configure it to the cutscene, I decided to just have it be extremely long rolling credits. With a lot of space in between, and this is kind of how I timed it out. So, you got all the different endings here. You still have the old text from the first intro thing. But yeah, so these are all the endings, and I just had to space it out so that it rolls in good. And basically, what happens is that it goes at 10 speed, and it only starts at specific times for each thing to kind of loop in with the audio. And this also brings over the ending manager. She's here, and she's actually a global object, which means that she affects multiple different frames. So her information is referenced at many different points in the game, including the iguana value. The iguana value is critical. So the final money that you get in Go Big, after the evaluation is over, it'll take you here, and that is what ending you get and what ending text you get. And then you're brought back to the menu, and the menu is basically extremely basic. It fades in from the intro, it plays the music, and it shows the icon. You can click on credits to roll the credits, similar way to how I showed off the outro. You can click play to just go to the Go Big screen. And then you can click exit to leave. You can enable easy mode, and then these green and pink squares will take you to Patreon and Discord. And then once you have an iguana value, Carliva will show up, and she will be able to you will get to see what sizes that she goes up to based on the iguana value. So if you want to go in for another run and try to boost your iguana value, you could go ahead and do that. You could go ahead and do that, man. Sorry if you guys can hear my roommate screaming during this. I think that he's playing Deadlock. Yeah, anyways, I'm gonna go do a full playthrough now, and we'll see just how RNG unfair this game is. If this game is truly unworth your time, then I could delist it and dumpsters, right? But I hope that you've kind of enjoyed this little overview of how I made this game. And I hope that it gave a bit of insight. This is a very long recording, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go give the game a whirl now. So obviously I wanted to have this here just because, you know, it's important to say these kind of things for this kind of game. So there's my little logo that I'm just using for everything this year. And it's a slow roll, but if you spam click, you could skip. I'll just turn it down a bit. Oh, you can see I was listening to the song that I said inspired this game. Yeah, that's just on my YouTube run now. So yeah, I didn't show this off, but basically you hover over everything. It glows a bit just to give a little more reactivity. And then yeah, you just click play, it fades out, and then it fades in. She says her thing. Oh yeah, she also has some cool like position things based on where your mouse is, and so does the background, so that it kind of has a slight 3D effect based on your mouse position. Her position will change, the background position will change. I kind of brought over the flicker thing with the text, and she kind of jumps a bit as well, and you can see the thing kind of. So it all kind of looks like an old film a bit, and then you see the reactivity of the different things, works in a similar way, it creates the thing. And then, yeah, the transition, visuals come in and out. So, just gonna give the wheel a few spins. and we're gonna try to get the best ending possible. So the thing about this game is that you're given 100 tokens, and if you try to play like blackjack 50 times with that, like you're probably not gonna win. Ideally, you want to play blackjack a few times and win, or just any game of chance, because you know, it's not really wise to go from $5,000 to $1 million like straight up. So, you know, that's why you have so many tokens, so that you can kind of play these supplementary games and get some supplementary gains. You know what I'm saying? So we're kind of getting rinsed with the wheel here, but it's just so so we'll give it one more spin. And that's why you give it one more spin, ladies and gents. Fuck you, dumpster. I'm gonna get some birds too. So we've gotten one common bird. We've gotten 2 common birds. We've gotten an epic bird. Got a legendary bird! Okay. And with that, I think I'm just gonna go to Snake Eyes. We'll put like, maybe, yeah, 25% of the bet down. Lovebirds, oh baby! Oh baby! I'm gonna have to make some moves here. I think I played the wheel too much. Okay, we got eyeball. Lovebirds, baby! Oh yeah! Alright, so we've got 100,000. I might be able to get 250 to get the other ending, or the penultimate ending. I might not be able to get 1 million. But, I mean, how long did this take? Like 4 minutes? Whatever. Come on, baby. And I got the bug! No way! Yeah, bitch! So we got 200,000. Okay. Alright, let's try to get 250. We got hash brown. Alright, whatever. Fuck! Got another hash brown. Come on, baby. Come on, baby. Other lovebirds. Alright, we need to go big. We need to go big. Alright, we got our bets back. That's God telling us not to do that. Thank you, Carliva. So we need 250,000 at least. Okay, let's get another bird for good luck. Hola. Oh yeah, also her smokes change randomly, which is really funny. We got one more bird. It's a good bird to get. It's a good bird to get. Oh. All right. Now I like my luck with early bird because there's a bit of agency. We're really leaving it to chance though, and it's also a 3 times payout. So we got 185,000. How much do I need to bet? So I get 3 times bet back. I mean, I guess I could bet 80,000 because there's no reason not to. So another thing, I didn't add in tutorial text or anything, but I really recommend using the scroll wheel to set your bets. So I'm just gonna bet as much as I can here, while still being over 100,000. So, I'm doing that. So worst case scenario, I at least get 100,000. But with any luck, we win here, and then we get over 250,000, right? And then we could get that. So not the millionaire ending. You can go and leave horrible comments telling me I'm stupid as fuck from RNG in this game. Fuck! Okay, I hate this game. I get it. Okay. Evaluation. See how you did. See, it's still impressionable. It's still impressionante. Yay! I think this is my favorite stage. I'm gonna be for real, guys. I think this is my favorite stage. This is what I was going for. See? I am proud of my work. Thank you, Carliva. You see how the music corresponds perfectly to it fading out? Like, it's, oh my god, I'm such a genius. El fin de cardenal. And you get 5. Yep. And what that does is it sets the iguana value to 5. So during this whole thing, you gotta remember the iguana value is 5.
Kiss the portly bonita disappears into the
And remember, this is just one string, so it's always
drive
scrolling.
home is a quiet one.
Heart's still racing.
Seems they didn't go big enough to
It
win
didn't
our
go big
hearts.
enough.
Perhaps it was never fated.
It's never fated to be. You gotta be fucking rich.
Later that night, God.
I will say, if I played easy mode, I would have won. So if you suck like me, just turn on easy mode. You will get the full thing. That took no time at all to get there. So if you guys keep losing, then you just get good. And then yeah, so the iguana value response to this. This is my solution to not having a gallery. Because I didn't want to put in another button in another screen, so she just kind of takes over the menu once you beat it. And this is also a fun way to see all the things change, because it just changes randomly. So like here you got a blue jay, bat, like it changes randomly. It's really fun. But yeah, it shows how big she gets and where you got up to. Clicking on the different things. Yep. And yeah, that's pretty much the game. There's the links here, which you should check out. She kind of still has the same movement. It's a little more exaggerated, just because the menu's a little more bare bones. I feel like it's fine for her to move around a bit more. I don't think she has the blinking logic in this. I don't think she blinks in the menu. I don't think I gave her that courtesy. Yeah, and then we got the credits. The credits don't interrupt anything. So you could just, click on whatever, like you could just start another game if you want. Hola! We'll end it out by just doing another little run here. So it doesn't take too long to get going. But yeah, I hope that you guys look at this shit! Oh yeah! I hope that you guys enjoyed this little breakdown. It was quite long, but I hope that it was thorough. I hope that it kind of gave an insight into the process of how I made this game in under a week. And yeah, you guys should stay tuned, because I'm working on a lot of games, and a lot larger games too. Tatsona has taken me many weeks, just like this, and it's not even done. So there's a lot of goodies coming. Let me know if you guys would like more breakdowns like this, like talkovers of the process and stuff. Let me know if you guys like Go Big, if there's anything you'd like to see me at. Let me know if you guys agree with Dumpster, and that this game isn't worth your time, even though it's a free game. And, see, I keep on bringing him up. That comment got under my skin. You know what? Dumpster, he's probably forgot about me. He's probably forgot about the game, and I'm talking about him in my fucking 2.5 hour long recording. So, who's really worth whose time here? You know? Quite the high ruler, aren't you? That's just to my taste. Shut up. I'm playing blackjack. I'm going all in. I win. I'm going all in. I hit. I stand. I win! I'm going all in! I stand? No!